Coming up, AOPA is renewing our stand against blocking traffic data to pilots without ADS-B out. AirVenture, just days away, we take a look at what's in store. A pre-war perennial favorite turns 75. And getting kids hooked on flying, Civil Air Patrol style. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever. But to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
There are still waves in the general aviation world from the fatal mid-air accident we told you about last week. An Air Force F-16 collided with a Cessna 150. We're looking out for members' concerns in the wake of this tragedy. Thanks for choosing AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haynes. And one common question from members is, could traffic data have helped prevent this accident? And we have aviation safety expert George Perry here with us today. So George, there is a legitimate concern about the FAA blocking traffic information to airplanes that aren't equipped with ADS-B out.
Yeah, well, while the accident is still under investigation, it's too soon to determine any causal factors about what happened in this specific instance. But there are concerns about the FAA's policy when it comes to traffic information. The current policy is to block the TSB traffic information broadcast from non-ADS-B out equipped airplanes. Now that's kind of complicated, but it's safe to say the vast majority of the GA fleet doesn't have ADS-B out equipage, so they won't see the traffic in many instances. So in order to respond to our members' concerns, I reached out to senior officials both at NTSB and FAA and reiterated our position that traffic information should be available to anyone with an ADS-B receiver, even if it's a portable. Those officials have agreed to take a second look at the policy, and if there are no technical problems, we're hopeful that the FAA will change the policy and provide the traffic information to everyone. Bottom line is the information that could be readily available, and it does have the potential to save lives. And we're hopeful that the FAA will make the right decisions going forward.
So George, one way or another, this is a tragedy on several levels. 2 lives from the same family lost in the Cessna 150, and our condolences go out to the family. The pilot of the 150 was an AOPA member. So what is next do you think, from this tragedy? Where can we go from here?
Well, I am happy to report that the FAA and the NTSB officials I spoke with were pretty receptive, and they said they're going to take a second look at the policy, and if it makes sense to change it, then I'm hopeful that they will. I've got follow-up discussions scheduled for later or early next month, and I'm hopeful that the FAA will make the right decision moving forward.
Okay, thanks, George. We'll look to hear more from you later on then. Problems continue in the electric airplane world. There's an ongoing drama surrounding which electric airplane would be the first to cross the English Channel. Now there's a new voice in the mix. Airbus's electrically powered E-Fan twinjet crossed the English Channel on July 10, but the story certainly hasn't ended there. Airbus says that the E-Fan was the first electrically powered airplane to make the flight. Or was it? Hughes Duvall says he made a channel crossing the day before in his Krepner E-Crystalline airplane, powered by twin 15-horsepower electric motors. But there's a twist to his flight that promises to keep this story alive even longer. In a telephone interview, Duvall said that his flight did not begin with a conventional takeoff. Instead, his Krepner was launched mid-air from an airplane. He says authorities prevented him from taking off from an airport for what he called administrative reasons that he wouldn't explain to us. This all comes after what we told you last week when Pipistrel says Airbus pressured Siemens, who makes the engines for Pipistrel's Alpha Electro, to stop Pipistrel from using their motor, citing safety reasons. Now, some have said that request came as a result of Siemens' connections to Airbus, and yes, it feels like we need a scorecard to keep track of all of that. It's been 1 year since FAA Administrator Michael Huerta, meanwhile, stood before pilots at AirVenture. He promised to push forward third-class medical reform. He did. FAA drafted a proposed rule and sent it up to the Department of Transportation for review. But we still haven't seen any progress from the parent agency. Administrator Huerta is again going before the crowds at AirVenture for a Meet the Boss session next week. We'll bring you what he has to say. Hope he wears his Teflon suit. Well, the world's greatest aviation celebration does kick off on Monday. This year, We'll see the air show debut of the F-35 Lightning II. We will also see a celebration of the Ercoupe because, well, it turned 75 this year. There's a lot going on next week in the AOPA tent complex as well. We have great seminars and guest speakers. Aerobatic superstar and AOPA ambassador Patty Wagstaff will be on hand. Patty will be signing autographs and chatting it up with members. Retired Navy commander and pilot Kirk Lippold will be speaking. He's a leadership expert and was in command of the USS Cole at the time that it was attacked. And you can meet the gang from Share Aviation. They'll be there. Fly a flight simulator, take care of anything you need to with your membership. Find us all along the flight line right at Show Center by the iconic Brown Arch. A very rare opportunity to learn from a legendary captain. Richard de Krepner is a Qantas senior captain. You're seeing him in an Australian broadcasting company recreation of the event. You see, in 2010, he was flying an Airbus A380 from Sydney to Singapore. One of 4 engines exploded. The damage to the aircraft was extensive, causing dozens of emergencies and making a safe landing questionable. Ensuring that 460 passengers remained calm, he also had a mammoth task on the flight deck to keep the aircraft flying. For 2 hours, the crew planned how to stabilize the damage, configure the overweight aircraft, and then maneuver toward Shanghai Airport. After a miraculous landing, a recalcitrant engine refused to shut down. There was fuel leaking near white-hot brakes. A new environment for a new disaster awaited. He'll be speaking at the Theater in the Woods this Sunday at 7 p.m. He doesn't often speak in the U.S., so this is a unique opportunity that you won't want to miss. There's so much going on at AirVenture, you might need help keeping track of it all. Be sure to download the EAA AirVenture app for your smart device. You can find it on the Apple App Store, Google Play, or the Amazon App Store. It has all the info you need, including maps, schedules, and more. Hope to see you this week at AirVenture. Coming up after the break, youth learning to fly through the CAP and celebrating historic design. The Ercoupe turns 75. But first, the aviation world is much darker this week. One of its bright lights has gone out. John Kunis was the editor-in-chief of Pilot Getaways magazine. He died suddenly of natural causes near his home in California this week. John was a brilliant man, quite literally. He wrote a paper on astrophysics at 14. That got him straight into the University of Southern California, skipping high school altogether. Still a teenager when he graduated, John went to work for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He worked on spacecraft, including Cassini, which is now orbiting Saturn. Fluent in 6 languages, he was a savant with numbers, but more importantly, John always brought a smile wherever he went. He was well known for his infectious sense of humor, well, and his puns and lousy jokes as well. John had some incredible flying adventures to his credit. In fact, he recently ferried a Cessna 185 to Malaysia. We would usually see him with his brother George. The two traveled extensively in the 185, going to places that highlighted the grand adventure that's available to aviators. He brought that sense of excitement home to readers of Pilot Getaways, and he shared it with anyone he could, including many of us here at AOPA. AOPA has established a flight training scholarship to honor John's incredible legacy in general aviation. John was 51 years old. Godspeed, my friend.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week. Well, how does winter in Hawaii sound? Turns out Solar Impulse 2 will be spending a lot more time in Hawaii than expected. On the nearly 118-hour flight from Japan to Hawaii, the batteries overheated, causing severe damage. The batteries will take months to fix. Solar Impulse 2 was expected to go to Phoenix later this month on its round-the-world trip. It'll now be grounded until spring of 2016. Well, not grounded, though, is one fun, easy-to-fly, affordable airplane that's been around for 75 years. AOPA pilot editor-at-large Tom Horn revisits the Ercoupe.
Happy birthday, Ercoupe. It's been 75 years since you first came on the market. It was designed originally in the late 30s as a safety airplane. They had a lot of stall and spin accidents back then. So this airplane was designed with a very forgiving wing and a limited amount of up elevator travel. And what that did was make it basically stall proof. Yeah, you can stall it, but it'll come out of it very quickly. It's docile in every way, and even better, easy to fly thanks to some clever engineering. So you had a low-wing monoplane with trailing link main gear, a tricycle landing gear, and it steered on the ground using the yoke. So it was very simple control philosophy behind it. The H-tail is designed also with a purpose. Those vertical stabilizers are out of the prop blast, so you have reduced P factor at high angles of attack. So it trims up very well. But as always, the best way to experience the Ercoupe is to fly it. I took our intern, Matt Orloff, up for a ride. Matt's got about 10 hours, and he's working on his private pilot certificate. So it's line-up time, full power, and climb away at 75 miles an hour. After takeoff, I turned the controls over to Matt. With 85 horsepower, it's not a powerful airplane, that's for sure. But climb rates today were 600 feet per minute. Soon we're over the Middletown Valley, just west of our home base at Frederick, Maryland. It's warm out, so we slide the canopy halves down for some open cockpit flying. And Matt's doing just fine. He even tries a turn, initiated by sticking an arm into the breeze.
No way!
Kids, don't try this at home. Back in the pattern, the tower clears us for a low pass, which Matt handles like a pro. For the landing, the magic number is 75 miles an hour once again. You can land the airplane in a crab when crosswinds prevail, but today is calm. And touchdown. What a great way to spend a day. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
What a great little airplane. Nice story, Tom. The Ercoupe's 75 years will be celebrated at AirVenture this coming week. Look for a story on the Ercoupe in the August edition of AOPA Pilot Magazine. Well, are you a student pilot? Have you taken any dual instruction this year? We want to hear about your flight training experience. Let us know what you think via the 2015 AOPA Flight Training Poll. It's open now, and we'll use the data to help improve flight training nationwide. You can find out more at flighttraining.aopa.org. And speaking of flight training, the Civil Air Patrol is successful at getting young people into aviation. AOPA Live's Josh Cochran has the story about one of their national flight academies where teens are getting a jump on their flight training.
These students have no shortage of excitement about aviation.
Oh, I love flying. I love it.
They're getting to fly a lot at one of Civil Air Patrol's national flight academies. This one is at Fort Pickett in Virginia. The 9-day-long academy takes CIP cadets who have little flying experience and gets them immersed in aviation.
This academy is a pretty rigorous academy, total immersion. The students fly twice a day and they have ground school in between. So they're very busy, very active, and they're well prepared to fly.
Many of the students have a chance to solo by the end of the week. 18-year-old Mary Claire was one of these students.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
You're a pilot!
It was just probably the most exhilarating moment I've ever had. I've never had the freedom to just go up in the sky, so that was really fun.
At 16, before even getting his driver's license, Josh Thompson also soloed.
I'm never forgetting that. I mean, for the rest of my life, I'll always remember this day.
The goal of the academy is to build on the excitement the students have.
And we want to make the most of this dedication by providing them with the most opportunities that we can.
One of these opportunities is the chance to apply for a variety of scholarships.
One lucky cadet from this flight academy will get a full scholarship to private pilot.
Many of the cadets have taken advantage of the opportunities through Civil Air Patrol and already have big dreams for their aviation careers.
Well, I'd like to go to the Air Force Academy and try to become an Air Force pilot.
My end goal is probably to be an airline pilot for any airline, really.
Become a certified flight instructor and eventually air traffic controller.
The Academy not only gets the students excited about aviation, but is rewarding for all the instructors.
It's just one of the most satisfying things ever. To be a teacher and to educate these young minds and mold them, make them ready for a career in aviation is very, very, very satisfying as an instructor.
Josh Cochran, AOPA Live.
Thanks, Josh. Looks like a great program to get kids involved. If you're interested in learning more about Civil Air Patrol, visit gocivilairpatrol.com to find a squadron near you. You're fired. That's what the FAA is saying to Donald Trump. The wild-haired business personality is running for the GOP presidential nomination, but in light of some of his recent controversial anti-immigration comments, the FAA is removing some Trump-named navigation points. Donald, Trump, and you fired are on one of the departure procedures from Palm Beach International Airport no more. And that's it for this week. Melissa and I will be on location for AirVenture in Oshkosh. We'll do 3 shows from the event. Look for us Thursday, Friday, and Saturday right here on AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching.